Good afternoon, Flesh and Blood community. It's your boy Sin here, and today we're going to be talking about Arakni. Arakni as in Flesh and Blood's Arakni, the first assassin hero that we got in Dynasty. And I've been mulling it over in my head and thinking to myself, hey, what is Arakni's deal? What's Arakni's story? And I think I have some theories, so we're going to go into kind of a long-winded analysis of Arakni based on what we've seen in Flesh and Blood so far and based on what's happening. And I'm going to loop this into what makes Arakni one of the outsiders. So let's dive in. I think Arakni has to probably be the most mysterious of all of Flesh and Blood's heroes. Very little backstory is currently available on Arakni, yet we know so much about this hooded masked assassin. Arakni is Flesh and Blood's boogeyman. They are responsible for multiple high-profile assassinations in the world of Flesh and Blood, and we know this due to Arakni's lore page, Bloodstained Web, where it is said that they're solely responsible for the assassinations of a captain of industry, Metrix, an artist of deadly grace lost to the mists of her mountain refuge in Mysteria, and a primal warlord clad in skullish trophies. So that would be the Savage Lands, of course. And above all else, we know from Dynasty, the Emperor of Volcor. Arakni has traveled Wraith as a sole part of the Spider, a mysterious order of contract killers that has operated everywhere and nowhere all at once for an untold amount of time. Arakni does not kill for coin. No, they kill for the fun of it. They hold no malice, and they care not the chaos that they leave in their wake, at all. A sense of morality is not in Arakni's playbook, and that leads me to several theories about Arakni's origin. So today, we're not going to focus on who the Spider is quite as much as who Arakni was. Their prime objective as an organization, today we're going to talk about, essentially, Death Incarnate, Arakni, the elusive thing that goes bump in the night. Not much is known so far throughout Flesh and Blood's story of who Arakni was before they donned their mask and moved into the role that they play now. It's possible even Arakni doesn't remember this. What's interesting to me, though, is in the young art, it's the inclusion of the mask at a young age, hiding identity, and in young Arakni's art, which we can see here, they appear to be no more than a teenager during the time of their maybe first series of killings, if these even are their first killings. Arakni appears frail and sickly. Arakni is still a killer. Arakni's origin, to me, and the way that it's kind of being presented is that Arakni's origin is more than likely a tragedy. A child born into the harshness of the pits, similar to Azalea, orphaned at a young age with nowhere to go but to crawl out of the dismal life they once lived to try and create a better one. But when it comes to Arakni, we know Flesh and Blood, it may be worse than just a tragedy. We know from the canon holiday story that LSS released this past year that Arakni worked with Azalea, Dash, and Lena Bell, the alchemist, to break into a toy factory to steal toys to potentially give to children of the pits. Now, in my mind, that tells me one thing. Arakni, a killer, the shadow of the night, and the end of the Emperor of Volcor, helped children. I believe this is Arakni's past as a broken and beaten orphan, shining through the cracks in their mask to find some purpose and to do some good. After all, even in the real world, it isn't the children that are cause for the world's greatest problems, right? It's typically the adults, such as greed. Arakni clearly has a soft spot for children, potentially because they themselves know what it was like, even if they don't remember it fully. So why all of this? An orphan, diseased child. How did Arakni survive? If what they are suffering from, potentially with the tumor, is blood rot. This is where the theory gets deeper of how Arakni became what they are today and what truly makes them the outsider. Or one of the outsiders. I believe that at a young age, Arakni was cured of their blood rot by the spider. But in this twist of fate, the exchange was Arakni's eternal servitude to the spider. The spider saw Arakni was this young child suffering, but had such a talent for killing that they made a deal, essentially, I save your life, you work for me now. The spider didn't just force Arakni from a young age into being an assassin. I believe it is much, much darker than that, though. I believe that the spider, they themselves needed a weapon. The spider needed a cold-blooded killer that they could raise with no sense of morality whatsoever into a killing machine. Someone they can control and potentially train into not simply being a weapon, but a monster. Enter Arakni solitary confinement. In this art, you can clearly see that Arakni is much older than they were in the original young art from Dynasty. They're not quite Huntsman status yet, though. There's something almost primal about this art for Arakni, where the growth is clearly visible, and now they appear to have been on some kind of massacre spree. The full art for this is ridiculous, by the way. Like it looks like a death metal album art. Like Carcass called, they want their album art back. I love it, but the growth is clearly visible, and now they appear to be on this kind of spree. And most recently, as of last night, we actually learned what Arakni solitary confinement's signature weapon is, that if they were to ever living legend in Blitz, that weapon would leave with them. It is called an orbitoclast. So an orbitoclast in the real world is actually a surgical instrument, and it's more like a metal spike that is used in a procedure only known as the lobotomy. It's sickening, honestly. It's very archaic and a very morbid kind of procedure. It's not a good procedure. Let's be, because you see, it was basically used, and if you don't know what a lobotomy is, basically they used to believe sticking a metal spike in your head and wiggling it around to separate specific parts of your brain would cure depression. Humanity's freaking weird, bro. Like, humanity is ridiculous. But how does that relate to Arakni? Why would Arakni be wielding these weapons? I fully believe that they may be symbols of Arakni's past. In the sense of my final theory on Arakni solitary confinement and how Arakni became who Arakni is today. I believe Arakni remembered who they were until the spider essentially lobotomized them, surgically removing their humanity as well as, as much of it as they possibly could. What they were left with was a ravenous beast that needed to be tamed and trained, hence placing Arakni in solitary confinement, forcing them to kill with no remorse, and letting Arakni's new identity form around the concept that the kill is all that matters. Marvel fans might instantly think, yeah, so Arakni is basically the Winter Soldier. And that's kind of an accurate depiction. Arakni, as far as we know from the story, is basically Flesh and Blood's Winter Soldier. But what separates Arakni and it forces them to stand out as part of the outsiders, Azuri, Riptide, Arakni, is that they are the spider's perfect soldier. They are the perfect monster created by the spider. And while Arakni huntsmen may finally be standing on their own 2 feet, possibly even against their leaders, alongside Uzuri and Riptide in Outsiders, I believe Arakni in time will be hailed as a hero of the Flesh and Blood universe, a soul lost to the greed of the pits, emerging as something else that may or may not have ever wanted to truly be a part of it. A child that was essentially caught in the web of adults with nefarious intentions and hunger for coin. I believe Arakni will essentially work with Uzuri, move forward, and move on from the pits into the greater overarching story of Flesh and Blood. And if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button. We're actually on a road to 1,000 right now. We have 5 entries that that I can only give out if we hit 1,000 subscribers on this channel. I will link that video below here. And, you know, thanks for watching, guys. I know it's a relatively shorter video today, but I kind of wanted to just like get some Arakni stuff out there and really just kind of talk about my thoughts on the hero as a character in the story of Flesh and Blood, rather than a hero, you know, within the game itself. So if you guys want more of these, I already kind of went over what I believe may be the curses of the pits. If you want to see a Riptide video, you want to see an Uzuri video, as things start coming out, I'll start making more predictions. I'll start writing some stuff up, and we can talk about it. But if you like these Flesh and Blood lore videos and you want more, definitely tell me about it. But I have 5 entries to the Pittsburgh Brawl that is happening on May 27th, 2023. The deadline for me to hit my 1,000 subs is May 1st, and we need to hit that, or I can't give out any of those entries to anybody that may want to come out and play some games, hang out, chill. I'll be there at the Brawl. I'll be doing event coverage for Green Tree Sports Cards. But definitely subscribe to the channel. And that's all I really have for you guys today. So, you know, if I don't talk to any of y'all, have a great weekend. Sin out.